I never thought my life would change while fixing a broken fence at midnight. But that's exactly when I heard my wife Rachel through our bedroom window. "He's coming to my birthday party, and if my husband doesn't like it..." Tough. Her voice carried that sharp edge she reserved for closing deals at the advertising firm. David doesn't understand business relationships anyway. David, that's me. 43 years old, construction project manager. Apparently too stupid to understand my wife's business relationships. I sat down my hammer and listened harder, but she'd already hung up. The next morning, Rachel sat across from me at our granite breakfast counter, stirring her coffee with theatrical precision. Our kitchen looked like a magazine spread, all stainless steel and marble, cold as a morgue. She decorated it herself, naturally. "Honey, I need to tell you something about my birthday party next week." She didn't look up from her phone. Evan might attend. Evan, her boss, the slick 40-something who'd been mentoring her career for the past year. "Your boss wants to come to your birthday party?" I asked, keeping my voice level. "He made a pass at me yesterday." She finally met my eyes, her expression perfectly calibrated for sympathy. I shut him down, obviously. But now things are awkward. I think if he sees us together as a couple, he'll back off. Right. Because nothing says back off like inviting the guy to your birthday party. "That makes perfect sense," I said, letting just enough sarcasm slip through. Rachel either didn't notice or didn't care. "I knew you'd understand." She kissed my cheek, leaving a lipstick mark I didn't bother wiping off. "You're so logical about these things." After she left for work in her BMW, I sat in our empty house and tried to shake the feeling that I'd just been played. Rachel had always been good at managing people. It's what made her successful in advertising. But lately, I felt like another account she was handling. Before we deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Our daughter Sam called that afternoon from college. At 18, she had Rachel's sharp intelligence, but thankfully my skeptical nature. "Mom's acting weird," she said without preamble. "She keeps texting me about this party, asking if I think her new dress is too young for her. Your mother's always been image conscious." "This is different, Dad. She's giddy, like a teenager with a crush." After hanging up, I wandered through our house. 4 bedrooms, 3 baths. Perfect suburban dream. Rachel had chosen everything. The furniture, the paint colors, even the books on the shelves. I realized I couldn't point to a single thing that was truly mine, except for my toolbox in the garage. That evening, Rachel came home late, claiming traffic. She showered immediately, which wasn't unusual, but she took her phone into the bathroom with her. Also not unusual, except she'd never done it before. "How was work?" I asked when she emerged. "Stressful. Evan's been difficult since yesterday. I think rejecting him bruised his ego." She climbed into bed and turned away from me, claiming exhaustion. I lay awake listening to her breathe, wondering when we'd become strangers, sharing a mortgage. The next morning, I decided to do laundry. Rachel usually handled it, another one of those domestic arrangements that had evolved without discussion. While sorting clothes, I found a phone in the pocket of her blazer. Not her regular iPhone, but a cheap flip phone I'd never seen before. My hands shook as I opened it. The text history made my stomach drop. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Room 237 at the Marriott. Your husband suspect anything?" David's clueless, too busy with his construction projects to notice anything. "Good. Keep it that way." The contact name was Jay, with a heart emoji. I scrolled through weeks of messages, each one a small knife twist. Plans for hotel meetings, complaints about me, detailed discussions of their physical relationship that made me want to throw the phone against the wall. Instead, I took pictures of every message with my own phone. Then, I carefully returned the flip phone to her blazer pocket. That evening, Rachel announced she was meeting clients for dinner. "Probably be late," she said, avoiding eye contact. I waited 30 minutes, then followed her. She drove to Murphy's bar downtown. Not exactly client dinner material. Through the window, I watched her slide into a booth across from a man I recognized from her company Christmas party. Jake Morrison, her work husband, as she'd introduced him. Tall, gym-built, the kind of guy who wore expensive watches and talked too loud. They weren't discussing business. Their body language screamed intimacy, leaning close, touching hands, sharing private jokes. When they left together, I followed at a distance to the Marriott. I sat in my truck in the parking garage for 2 hours, watching the light in room 237. My wife was up there with another man, and I was sitting in a concrete tomb trying to decide what to do about it. Violence wasn't an option. I'm not that guy, despite what my size might suggest. Confrontation felt pointless. She'd just lie and I'd look like a paranoid husband. But Jake's shiny BMW sat 3 spaces away, practically begging for attention. I walked over and examined it. Pristine silver paint, custom wheels, probably worth more than I made in 6 months. A note was tucked under the windshield wiper, a parking receipt. I pulled out my phone and took photos of the car, the license plate, the hotel receipt. Then I used my house key to carve a single word into the driver's side mirror. Cheater. It felt good. Really good. Back home, I created an anonymous email account and sent the photos to Jake's wife, Linda Morrison. I'd met her at company events. Nice woman, devoted mother, completely unaware her husband was a snake. The subject line read, "Thought you should know." Then I sent the same photos to myself from Rachel's secret phone, making it look like she'd sent them accidentally. I was still awake when Rachel came home at 1 a.m., humming softly. She slipped into bed, smelling like hotel soap and guilt. "How was dinner?" I asked in the darkness. "Long, boring. You know how clients can be." "Yeah," I said. "I know exactly how they can be." The next morning, my phone buzzed with a text from Rachel's secret phone. The photos I'd sent along with a message meant for Jake. "Oops, wrong number. Hope David doesn't see these." I replied from my regular phone. "Too late." Rachel's face went white when she saw my response. She stood in our kitchen holding both phones, looking like someone had just told her the IRS was auditing her taxes. "David, I can explain. Can you?" I poured myself coffee, amazed at how calm I sounded because those photos are pretty self-explanatory. She tried tears first, then anger. Finally, she settled on partial truth, the most dangerous kind of lie. "Yes, I've been seeing Jake, but it's not what you think. Evan's been harassing me at work, and Jake's been helping me deal with it. Last night we were discussing legal options in a hotel room. We needed privacy. Evan has spies everywhere in the office." The scary part was how smoothly she delivered it. If I hadn't read those text messages, I might have believed her. "What about your boss?" I asked. "Still planning to invite him to your party?" "That's complicated. If I exclude him now, he might retaliate professionally, right?" Everything was always about Rachel's career. My phone rang. Unknown number. "David, this is Linda Morrison, Jake's wife. We need to talk." I stepped onto our back deck. "What about?" "My husband came home last night with his car vandalized. Someone carved cheater into his mirror. Then this morning I got some very interesting photos." I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? Because whoever sent these photos did me a favor. I've been suspicious for months. Linda Morrison had always struck me as a quiet housewife, but there was steel in her voice now. What are you planning to do? I asked. Destroy him professionally, personally, financially? I've already called my lawyer and Jake's HR department. I'm also posting those photos on every social media platform he uses. That seems thorough. I'm just getting started. Jake thinks he's untouchable because he makes good money and goes to the gym. He's about to learn otherwise. After hanging up, I felt a surge of satisfaction. Jake's world was about to implode, and he'd never trace it back to me. I called my best friend Manny, who runs a boxing gym downtown. We've known each other since high school, and he's one of the few people who sees through Rachel's act. You sound different, he said when I arrived at the gym. Lighter. My wife's having an affair. Finally caught her, huh? He didn't sound surprised. What's your move? I'm not sure yet, but I'm done being the clueless husband. Manny put me through a brutal workout, letting me take out my frustration on the heavy bag. Afterward, we sat in his office sharing a beer. You want my advice? He said, don't just swing first. Make them hurt where it counts. Their reputation, their pride, their wallet. I'm not looking to destroy anyone, aren't you? He studied my face, because the David I know doesn't carve words into people's cars. He was right. Something had shifted in me since finding that phone. The old David would have confronted Rachel directly, maybe suggested marriage counseling. The new David was planning something more creative. That evening, Rachel announced her birthday party would be this Saturday, 5 days away. Just close friends and some colleagues. Nothing fancy. Should I invite anyone? Like who? I don't know. Maybe Evan's fiancée? What's her name? Laya. Rachel's fork froze halfway to her mouth. Why would you invite her? You said Evan's been inappropriate. Having his pregnant fiancée there might keep him in line. That's actually not a bad idea. It was a great idea, but not for the reasons Rachel thought. I spent the next few days researching. Laya Hartwell, 28, marketing coordinator, 6 months pregnant with Evan's first child. More importantly, she had no idea her fiancé was a predator. I created a fake Facebook account and sent her a friend request claiming to be a friend of Rachel's. She accepted immediately, trusting soul. Then I sent her a message. Hi, I'm helping Rachel plan her birthday party this Saturday. She mentioned how much she'd love to meet you and was hoping you and Evan could both come. It's at 7:00 p.m. casual dress. Hope to see you there. Laya responded within an hour. How sweet. Evan didn't mention a party, but I'd love to come. Should I bring anything? Just yourself. Rachel's so excited to meet the woman who stole Evan's heart. The irony was delicious. Meanwhile, Jake's world was crumbling exactly as Linda had promised. She'd posted those hotel photos everywhere, along with a detailed account of his infidelity. His gym buddies were mocking him. His clients were asking questions. And his boss had called him in for a discussion about company image. Rachel was getting nervous. She kept checking her secret phone and making hushed calls from the garage. Everything okay? I asked Thursday night. Jake's having some personal problems. His wife found out about our meetings. That's unfortunate. She's making it sound like we were having an affair. It's completely blown out of proportion. People love drama, I said, especially when it involves attractive people behaving badly. Friday evening, Rachel spent 2 hours getting ready for her party. New dress, professional hairstyling, enough makeup for a magazine shoot. She looked stunning and desperate in equal measure. You clean up nice, I told her. Thanks. I want everything to be perfect tomorrow. Don't worry, I have a feeling it'll be unforgettable. Saturday arrived with unseasonable warmth. Rachel spent the day arranging flowers and obsessing over details. She'd hired caterers and rented extra furniture, transforming our backyard into something from a lifestyle magazine. Guests started arriving at 7. Rachel's work friends, a few neighbors, some college acquaintances she'd reconnected with on social media. Everyone complimented the decorations and asked about the birthday girl's radiant glow. Evan arrived fashionably late, alone. He was everything I'd expected. Expensive suit, perfect teeth, the kind of handshake that crushed fingers to establish dominance. He brought Rachel an elaborate bouquet and kissed her cheek just a little too long. Beautiful party, Rachel. You've outdone yourself. Thank you. I'm so glad you could make it. They stood close together, speaking in low tones while I played bartender. Several guests noticed their intimacy, exchanging glances and whispers. Jake showed up 20 minutes later, looking haggarded. His usual confidence had evaporated, replaced by the haunted expression of a man whose life was falling apart. He grabbed a drink and found a corner to sulk in. At 8:30, right as Rachel was preparing to make a speech, my phone buzzed. A text from my fake account. Running a few minutes late. Can't wait to meet everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, Rachel called out, tapping her wine glass. Thank you all for celebrating with me tonight. This past year has been incredible, full of new opportunities and meaningful relationships. She looked directly at Evan, who raised his glass in response. That's when Leah Hartwell walked through our back gate. 6 months pregnant, glowing with maternal health, wearing a sundress that accentuated her condition. She looked around uncertainly until she spotted Evan. Honey, there you are. I've been looking forward to this all week. The silence was immediate and total. Evan's face went through several color changes before settling on pale green. Rachel looked like someone had slapped her. Leah, Evan managed. What are you doing here? Rachel invited me? Wasn't that sweet? She waddled over and hugged my wife, who stood frozen. I'm so excited to finally meet the woman Evan talks about so much at work. The crowd was loving this. Nothing like unexpected drama at a suburban birthday party. I don't think we've met, I said, stepping forward with my phone already recording. I'm David, Rachel's husband. Oh, the construction manager. Evan says you build the most amazing projects. That's kind of him. And you're Evan's fiancée, right? When are you due? 3 months. We're so excited. It's our first. I kept the camera rolling as Leah continued chatting, oblivious to the tension. Rachel and Evan stood apart now, both trying to look casual while their world imploded. You know, I said loudly enough for everyone to hear. I was just telling Rachel how important it is for colleagues to maintain appropriate boundaries, especially when one of them is engaged to someone else. Absolutely, Leah agreed. Trust is so important in relationships. That's when Jake, apparently deciding he had nothing left to lose, walked over and put his arm around Rachel's waist. Happy birthday, beautiful. Sorry I'm late. The crowd gasped. Leah looked confused. Evan looked furious. Rachel looked trapped. I kept recording. Jake, I said pleasantly. I don't think you've met Evan's fiancée, Leah. Ella, this is Jake Morrison. He's been having meetings with my wife. Nice to meet you, Leah said, still smiling. What kind of meetings? The private kind, I said. Usually in hotel rooms. That's when Leah's smile finally faded. The explosion was immediate and spectacular. Leah Hartwell might have looked like a sweet pregnant woman, but she had the vocabulary of a construction worker and the throwing arm of a softball pitcher. You piece of garbage. She hurled her wine glass at Evan, catching him square in the chest. "I'm 6 months pregnant with your child, and you're sleeping with your employee." "Laya, calm down. Don't tell me to calm down." She turned to Rachel, who was trying to back away. "And you? I defended you to my friends when they said you were a homewrecker. I said, no woman would be that shameless." The party guests formed a loose circle, phones out, recording everything. This would be all over social media within the hour. "There's been a misunderstanding," Rachel started. "The only misunderstanding is me thinking you had any decency," Laya shot back. She grabbed the birthday cake and hurled it at both Rachel and Evan. It exploded against the fence behind them, frosting everywhere. Jake tried to slip away, but I blocked his path. "Leaving so soon? The party's just getting started. Move, David." "I don't think so. See, everyone here deserves to know what kind of man you are." I held up my phone, still recording. "Ladies and gentlemen, Jake Morrison, who's been having an affair with my wife while his own wife was home raising their 3 children." "You set this up," Jake snarled. "Did I? Or did you set yourself up by being a cheating snake?" That's when he swung at me. I'd been expecting it. Months of boxing with Manny had sharpened my reflexes. I ducked his wild punch and grabbed his wrist, using his momentum to send him stumbling into the dessert table. He went down hard, taking the entire spread with him. Pies, cookies, and pastries scattered across the patio as Jake flailed in the mess. "Oops," I said. "Looks like you slipped." The crowd was eating this up. Someone started clapping. Evan tried to salvage the situation. "This is all a big misunderstanding. Rachel and I have a professional relationship." "Professional?" Laya laughed bitterly. "Is that what you call it when you take your employees to hotels?" She turned to address the crowd. "Everyone here should know that Evan Patterson, senior partner at Patterson & Associates, has been using his position to prey on female employees. Rachel isn't his first victim." Wait, that was news to me. "What do you mean?" I asked. Wyla's eyes blazed. "You think I'm stupid? I've been tracking his phone for months. Hotel charges, restaurant bills, gifts to women who aren't me. Rachel's just the latest in a long line." The crowd murmured. Several women looked uncomfortable, like they were remembering their own experiences. Rachel finally found her voice. "That's not true. Evan and I have a genuine connection." "A connection?" Laya laughed. "Honey, you're just another notch on his belt. Ask Jennifer from accounting or Susan from media relations or any of the other women he's mentored over the years." Evan's face had gone from pale to red. "Laya, you're embarrassing yourself. I'm embarrassing myself. I'm not the one caught cheating at a birthday party." She grabbed her purse and pulled out a thick folder, divorce papers already filed, and copies of every hotel receipt, every inappropriate text, every lie you've told me for the past 2 years. She threw the papers at his feet. "You're also being reported to the State Bar Association for ethics violations. Enjoy explaining this to your clients." With that, she marched out of the party, leaving stunned silence behind. Jake finally extracted himself from the dessert wreckage covered in frosting and humiliation. "This isn't over, David." "Yes, it is. Your wife's already filed for divorce. Your boss knows about the affair, and everyone at your company has seen those hotel photos. You're finished." He tried to look threatening, but it's hard to project menace when you're covered in birthday cake. After Jake slunk away, the party guests began leaving in small groups, whispering excitedly. This would be the story they told for years. The birthday party that turned into a public execution. Rachel stood in the middle of our destroyed patio, looking lost. Evan had disappeared the moment Laya left, abandoning her to face the wreckage alone. "Satisfied?" she asked when we were finally alone. "Getting there. You planned this whole thing. I planned to invite Laya. Everything else was just natural consequences." She kicked at a piece of cake. "Evan's going to blame me for this. His career could be ruined. His career should be ruined. According to his fiancée, you're just one of many." That hit home. Rachel's face crumpled as she realized she wasn't special. Just another victim of a predator who'd made her feel chosen. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now you get to explain to our daughter why her mother's affair is trending on social media." I wasn't exaggerating. By Sunday morning, videos of the party were everywhere. Someone had posted a compilation titled "Birthday Party from Hell," and it was getting thousands of views. Sam called at noon, her voice tight with embarrassment. "Dad, my friends are sending me links. Is it true? Is Mom really having an affair?" "Yes." "With her boss and some other guy?" "Yes." "And you knew about it? I found out recently." There was a long pause. "Are you getting divorced?" "I don't know yet. We haven't talked about it." "Good. She doesn't deserve you." After hanging up, I felt a mix of satisfaction and guilt. My daughter was choosing sides, which wasn't fair to her. But Rachel had made her choices long before I'd made mine. Monday brought fresh consequences. Evan was placed on administrative leave while the company investigated ethics violations. 3 other women had come forward with similar stories after seeing the party videos. Jake was fired outright. Apparently, his company had a strict morality clause in their contracts. Rachel took the week off work, claiming stress. She spent her days on the couch scrolling through social media and watching her reputation disintegrate in real time. "The whole city's talking about us," she said Wednesday evening. "About you," I corrected. "I'm just the wronged husband, very sympathetic figure. You're enjoying this more than I should." She studied my face like she was seeing me for the first time. "You're different, harder. You made me harder. I never meant for things to go this far." "Which things? The affair with your boss, the affair with Jake, or just getting caught?" She didn't answer. Thursday brought a new development. Mrs. Connors, our nosy neighbor, knocked on our door with a casserole and a hungry expression. "I just wanted to check on you both after that terrible party," she said, pushing past me into our kitchen. "The whole neighborhood's talking about it." "I'm sure they are." "Is it true about Rachel and her boss and that other man?" "You'd have to ask Rachel." Mrs. Connors practically vibrated with excitement. "I always thought she seemed too friendly with those work people. Remember last year's Christmas party? She was all over that Jake fellow." I didn't remember, but I nodded anyway. "And her boss, such a slick character. I could tell he was trouble the moment I met him. After she left, I realized Mrs. Connors was better than social media for spreading gossip. By evening, half the neighborhood would know every sordid detail." Friday afternoon, Rachel finally emerged from her cocoon of self-pity. "I'm going back to work Monday," she announced. "How's that going to go?" "Terrible, but hiding won't make it better." She was right about that. The advertising world thrived on gossip, and Rachel had provided enough material to fuel conversations for months. What about Evan? What about him? He made it clear I was just another conquest. His fiancée was right. I was stupid to think I was special. There was real pain in her voice. And for a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. And Jake? Jake's a coward. He hasn't returned my call since the party. Of course, he hadn't. Jake was dealing with his own disaster, divorce proceedings, job loss, and social humiliation. He didn't have energy to spare for Rachel's problems. That evening, I called Manny to update him on the situation. "Sounds like you got your revenge," he said. "It's not over yet. What more do you want? Their careers are ruined, their reputations are shot, and everyone knows what they did. I want them to understand consequences. Real consequences that last longer than a few embarrassing videos. Be careful, David. Revenge is like boxing. You can win the fight and still get hurt." He was probably right, but I was past caring about getting hurt. I'd been hurt for months while Rachel and her lovers laughed behind my back. Now it was their turn. The following week brought fresh revelations that made my personal revenge look small-scale. The local business journal ran a front-page story about Evan's company, Patterson and Associates, under investigation for workplace harassment. Apparently, Laya hadn't been bluffing about other women coming forward. The State Bar Association was reviewing Evan's license, and several clients were reconsidering their contracts. Rachel returned to work Monday looking like she was walking to her own execution. She came home that evening pale and shaken. "How bad was it?" I asked. "Worse than I expected. They've moved me to a different department, away from any client contact. Basically, exile. But you still have a job. For now, HR wants to interview me about my relationship with Evan. They're trying to determine if I was a victim or a willing participant. Which were you?" She looked at me with something like, "Hate. Does it matter? Either way, I'm finished in this industry." She was probably right. The advertising world was small and scandal traveled fast. Even if she kept her current job, moving anywhere else would be nearly impossible. But I wasn't done yet. Tuesday evening, I drove to Jake's apartment complex, a flashy development with a gym and pool that screamed, "Divorced dad trying too hard." His Beamer was in the parking garage, still bearing the scratched mirror from my earlier handiwork. I waited in the shadows until he emerged from the elevator, gym bag in hand. He looked terrible, unshaven, hollow-eyed, like a man who hadn't slept in weeks. "Hello, Jake." He spun around, nearly dropping his bag. "David, what are you doing here? We need to talk. I've got nothing to say to you." "That's fine. You can listen." I stepped closer, using my size advantage. Jake was fit, but I was bigger and had 30 lb on him. "Your life's falling apart," I said conversationally. "Divorce, job loss, social humiliation. That must be rough. Get to the point." "The point is, it's going to get worse unless you do exactly what I tell you." His eyes narrowed. "Are you threatening me? I'm offering you a choice. Option 1, you disappear quietly. Move to another city. Start over. Keep your mouth shut about Rachel and Evan. Option 2, I make sure everyone knows about your gambling problem." His face went white. "How did you know about your sports betting, the offshore accounts, the money you borrowed from your 401k? I smiled. "I'm very thorough, Jake. Your wife's divorce attorney would love this information." It hadn't been hard to find. Jake was the type who bragged about his system for beating the odds. A little digging revealed he was into several bookies for serious money. "You can't prove anything." I pulled out my phone and showed him screenshots of his betting accounts. "Want to bet?" He sagged against his car. "What do you want?" "I want you to call Evan and Rachel tonight. Tell them you're confessing everything to your wife and Laya. The planning, the lies, the way you all laughed about deceiving me. But I already lost my job. My wife filed for divorce, not my problem. You should have thought about consequences before you decided to make me look like a fool." I grabbed his gym bag and dumped it on the concrete. Protein powder, supplements, and expensive workout gear scattered across the garage floor. "Oops, I said, grinding his protein powder under my heel. Accidents happen. Then I pulled out my keys and added a few more scratches to his car, right where he could see me doing it. Every day you wait to make those calls, something else happens to your stuff. Your car, your apartment, your precious gym equipment. I know where you live, Jake. I know your routines. You're insane. I'm motivated. There's a difference. I walked away, leaving him standing in the wreckage of his gym bag. Wednesday evening, my phone rang. Rachel calling from work. Jake called me, she said without preamble. He says you threatened him. Did he make the call I asked for? What call to Evan about confessing everything? There was a long pause. David, what are you doing? I'm teaching people about consequences. Actions have results. Rachel, you taught me that. This has gone far enough. Has it? Because I don't think any of you understand the scope of what you've done. You didn't just cheat on me, you made me a joke. You and your lovers had a good laugh about poor stupid David who was too busy working to notice his wife was screwing around. It's exactly what happened. I read the texts. Remember all those clever comments about how clueless I was? She was quiet for a moment. What do you want from us? I want you to face the truth. All of it. No more lies, no more excuses, no more blaming circumstances. And if we do, then maybe this ends without getting worse. Worse? How? I hung up without answering. Thursday afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. This is Evan Patterson. We need to meet. Do we? Jake says you're threatening him. Rachel says you're planning something. I think it's time we talked man to man. Where? My cabin, Lake Winnipegazy, Saturday afternoon. Come alone. After he gave me the address, I sat back and smiled. Evan was trying to control the situation, get me on his turf where he felt powerful. He had no idea he was walking into my trap. Friday evening, I drove to the lake to scout the location. Evan's cabin was exactly what I'd expected: expensive, isolated, perfect for private conversations. It also had terrible cell service and no neighbors within shouting distance. I spent Saturday morning preparing hidden cameras, recording equipment, backup batteries. If Evan wanted a private conversation, I'd give him one he'd never forget. I arrived at the cabin precisely on time. Evan's Mercedes was already there along with Jake's damaged BMW. Apparently, this was going to be a group intervention. Rachel's car pulled up as I was walking to the door. Of course, the whole gang was here for the final showdown. Evan answered the door wearing casual clothes that probably cost more than most people's mortgage payments. David, glad you could make it. Wouldn't miss it. Inside, Jake sat on a leather couch, looking miserable. Rachel stood by the fireplace, arms crossed defensively. They'd clearly been planning this confrontation. Can I get you a drink? Evan asked, playing the gracious host. I'm fine. Let's get to it. Evan poured himself scotch. Expensive stuff, naturally. We're all here because this situation has gotten out of hand. Has it? Jake's lost his job. I'm facing investigation. Rachel's career is in jeopardy. Don't you think we've all suffered enough? I looked around the room at these three people who'd conspired to make me look like a fool and felt a surge of cold satisfaction. Actually, I don't think you've suffered nearly enough. That's when I pulled out my phone and hit record. See, the problem is that you all think this is about adultery. It's not. It's about respect, about treating another human being like they matter. David, Rachel started. Let me finish. For months, you three have been laughing at me. Poor, stupid David. Too dumb to realize his wife was cheating, too trusting to suspect anything. You made me a joke in my own marriage. Jake shifted uncomfortably. You never meant to get caught. There's a difference. I walked to the center of the room, making sure all three were in frame. So, here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell me everything. Every lie, every secret meeting, every time you laughed about deceiving me, all of it. And if we don't? Evan asked. I smiled. Then I released the recordings I've already made. Your confession about targeting multiple female employees, Evan. Jake's gambling debts and the money he stole from client accounts, Rachel's fake college degree, and the campaign results she doctored. The silence was deafening. You're bluffing, Evan said, but his voice lacked conviction. Am I, Rachel? Want to tell them about your bachelor's degree from Boston University? The one that doesn't exist in their records? Her face went white. Jake, should we discuss your creative bookkeeping? The client funds you borrowed for gambling. Jake looked like he might be sick. And Evan, let's talk about your pattern of targeting vulnerable female employees, the NDAs, the settlements, the company money used to buy silence. Evan's scotch glass slipped from his hand, shattering on the hardwood floor. How did you? I'm very thorough, and I have friends in interesting places. It wasn't entirely true, but they didn't need to know that. Sometimes the threat of exposure was more powerful than actual evidence. What do you want? Rachel asked quietly. The truth. All of it. On camera. For the next hour, they talked about the affair, the planning, the lies they'd told their spouses, about how they joked about my ignorance, made bets about how long it would take me to figure things out. Every word was recorded in high definition. When they were finished, I stopped the recording and looked at their defeated faces. There, was that so hard? What happens now? Jake asked. Now you live with the consequences. Your reputations are destroyed, your careers are over, and everyone knows what kind of people you really are. I walked toward the door, then turned back. Oh, and if any of you try to retaliate against me, these recordings go public immediately, along with all the other evidence I've collected. I left them sitting in that expensive cabin, surrounded by the wreckage of their lies. The drive home was the most peaceful I'd felt in months. The recordings sat on my computer for 3 days, like loaded weapons. I could have released them immediately, but I wanted to see what Rachel, Evan, and Jake would do with their freedom. The answer was exactly what I expected. Monday morning, Rachel tried to act like nothing had happened. She made coffee, checked her phone, got dressed for work, the same routine we'd followed for 15 years. Sleep well? I asked over breakfast. Fine. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Any plans for today? Just work, the usual. But it wasn't the usual. Within an hour of her leaving, I got a call from Sam. Dad, Mom just called me. She says you've been threatening her and her co-workers. She wants me to come home and talk sense into you. What did you tell her? I told her I'd seen the party videos, and she should be apologizing to you, not playing victim. Smart girl takes after her old man. That afternoon, Mrs. Connors appeared at my door again, practically vibrating with curiosity. I heard Rachel's been telling people you're having some kind of breakdown, she said, inviting herself in. Something about you stalking her friends. Is that what she's saying? Well, you know how gossip spreads. But between you and me, most people think she's got some nerve playing victim after what everyone saw at that party. After Mrs. Connors left, I realized Rachel was trying to flip the script. Make me the villain in our story. It was a smart move if it had worked. But I had those recordings. Tuesday brought news that Evan's company was hosting a reputation rebuilding event Friday night. An open bar mixer designed to show clients and staff that Patterson and Associates was moving past recent difficulties. Perfect timing. I spent Wednesday and Thursday preparing. The event would be held at a downtown hotel with media coverage and local business leaders attending. Evan was planning to give a speech about learning from mistakes and moving forward. He had no idea how educational his evening was about to become. Friday afternoon, I dressed carefully, my best suit, the one I'd worn to our wedding. If I was going to destroy 3 lives in public, I wanted to look respectable doing it. The hotel ballroom was packed, 200 people mingling, drinking, pretending the recent scandals hadn't happened. I recognized faces from the business community, local politicians, media representatives. Rachel stood near the bar with several co-workers looking nervous, but trying to project confidence. She'd chosen a conservative dress and minimal makeup, the reformed adulterous look. Jake wasn't there, which was smart. He'd already lost everything worth losing. Evan worked the room like the politician he'd always wanted to be, shaking hands and making small talk. His smile looked painted on, but he was selling it hard. At 8 was, he took the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight. Recent weeks have been challenging for our company, and I want to address that directly." The room went quiet. This was what everyone had come to hear. We've all made mistakes. I've made mistakes. But I believe in accountability, in learning from our errors, and in moving forward with integrity. The crowd nodded approvingly. Evan was good at this. The right mix of contrition and confidence. Patterson and Associates has always been built on trust. Trust between colleagues, trust with clients, trust in our community. That trust was damaged, and I take full responsibility. More nodding, he was winning them over. That's when I stood up. "Excuse me, Evan. Could you be more specific about those mistakes?" Heads turned. Evan's smile faltered for just a moment before snapping back into place. "David, I didn't realize you were here." "Wouldn't miss it, but I'm curious. When you say you take full responsibility, what exactly are you taking responsibility for?" The crowd was watching this like a tennis match. They sensed drama coming. "I think this is a conversation for another time," Evan said smoothly. "Is it?" "Because you're asking these people to trust you again. Don't they deserve to know the truth about what happened?" I walked toward the front of the room, pulling out my phone. "See, I have recordings of you explaining exactly what you did. Would you like me to play them?" Evan's face went pale. "That's not necessary." "I think it is." I connected my phone to the sound system. Amazing what you can accomplish with the right adapters and a little preparation. Evan's voice filled the room. "The thing about targeting vulnerable employees is knowing which ones won't fight back. Rachel was perfect, married, insecure about her age, desperate for validation." The crowd gasped. Rachel looked like she wanted to disappear, but I wasn't done. Jake's voice came next. "We should have been more careful about David. Guy's not as stupid as he looks." Then Rachel. "David's so trusting. Sometimes I felt bad about lying to him. But then I'd remember how boring our marriage had become." The recording continued for 5 devastating minutes. Every cruel joke, every calculated deception, every moment of contempt for the husband they'd made a fool of. When it ended, the silence was absolute. "Any questions?" I asked the crowd. That's when Evan snapped. He lunged at me, screaming something about invasion of privacy and illegal recordings. I stepped aside and let his momentum carry him into the dessert table. He went down hard, taking an elaborate chocolate fountain with him. Hot chocolate and pastries exploded everywhere as he flailed in the mess. Security moved in, but the damage was done. 200 people had heard the truth, and half of them were recording the aftermath on their phones. Rachel tried to run, but I blocked her path to the exit. Leaving so soon. The party's just getting started. You've destroyed us, she whispered. No, I've exposed you. There's a difference. Jake appeared from nowhere. Apparently, he'd been hiding in the crowd after all. He grabbed my shoulder, spinning me around. You psycho, you've ruined everything. Everything was already ruined. I just made it visible. He swung at me, but months of boxing training had sharpened my reflexes. I caught his wrist and used his momentum to send him stumbling into a group of reporters. They went down in a tangle of limbs and camera equipment with Jake at the bottom of the pile. The crowd was loving this. Nothing like a public meltdown to cap off an evening of revelations. Security finally reached us, but I raised my hands peacefully. I'm done here, I announced to the room. These 3 people conspired to make me look like a fool. They laughed about deceiving me, joked about my ignorance, and treated my marriage like their personal entertainment. I looked around the room at all those faces. Some shocked, some amused, some disgusted. Well, now everyone knows what kind of people they really are. Justice served. I walked toward the exit, stepping over Evan, who was still extracting himself from the chocolate fountain. At the door, I turned back one last time. Oh, and Rachel, don't bother coming home. Your things will be on the lawn. The last thing I heard as the doors closed was the sound of 200 people talking at once, their voices rising in excitement as they processed what they'd just witnessed. Outside, I sat in my truck for a moment, feeling strangely empty. For months, revenge had consumed me, driven every decision, shaped every interaction. Now it was over. Rachel, Evan, and Jake were finished professionally, socially, personally. Their reputations were destroyed beyond repair. Their careers were over. And everyone in the city knew exactly what they'd done. I started the engine and drove home through the quiet streets, past the houses where normal people lived normal lives, untouched by the drama that had consumed my world. At home, I poured myself a drink and sat on my back patio, looking at the spot where Rachel's birthday party had started this whole chain of events. My phone buzzed with texts, friends, neighbors, even reporters wanting comments. I ignored them all. Tomorrow, I'd start divorce proceedings. I'd sell the house, maybe move somewhere new. Sam was in college making her own life. I was free to do the same. But tonight, I just sat in the darkness, savoring the silence and the knowledge that justice had finally been served. They'd made me the villain in their story, so I'd given them a performance they'd never forget.